Welcome to the Be Baby Held Raise the Bar webinar. We are live every single Thursday to deliver some valuable information as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and as clearly as possible for mothers and fathers who don't want to just wing it and they want to get the deets so that they can get better sleep. And today we're going to be talking specifically about the science of pediatric sleep. So I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that there's quite a few people in this room who are not getting the best of sleep. Let me know who in the comment here, what age is your little one? And if you're experiencing sleep problems, because if I know, what type of age group we're working with today, I can tailor some of this content for the age group of whom we have here. So tell me the age of your cutest love bunny that is adorable in every single way, but has a love-hate relationship with sleep. Alexandra says 5 months old. Okay, great. 12 weeks, you're right there at that 4 month sleep regression. It's coming, it's creeping. 6 months, waking frequently. 5.5 months, 14 months for Carolina. Okay. So we have a little bit of a difference there. So that's actually really good for me to know. So first and foremost, who the hell am I and why are you taking your precious time to not be napping if you have the opportunity to do so and to be listening to me? My name is Samantha. I'm the founder of Be Baby, okay? And I'm also the mother of 5 children. So I have kids between the ages of, why, thank you. Great timing. I have kids between the age of 11 months all the way to 6 years of age. So I know the importance of sleep. And as the CEO and the founder of Be Baby, what I have devoted my life to is helping parents actually get the help and the support that they need in all areas of parenting. So we do everything from childbirth education to breastfeeding consulting, a lot of sleep consulting, because sleep deprivation is a very common problem for parents. And we also help with health and development consulting. We offer all-inclusive programs where parents can come in and instead of getting tidbits of information here and tidbits of information there and trying to stick them together and it doesn't work, and at the end of the day, they're still sleep deprived and their nipples are bleeding, we come and we put everything together so that you have the right answers for your baby in a customized, unique fashion, because we know that every single baby is different. Every baby is different and their sleep problems are different. And so the solution will also be different. Okay. So we look at breastfeeding and sleep together. We don't separate them, etc. And one of the things that we like to do is to hold these beautiful sessions that are complementary so that we can get the word out there so that mothers and fathers can be better equipped and better empowered when it comes to sleep. So a big thing that I find really important when it comes to sleep is you go in a mom group or you go in a sleep group, or you even go read a blog, right, from Google because your baby's not sleeping. And you always get only half the information, right? Do this, but it never explains why you should do this or what is the science behind doing this? What is the understanding to it? And so a lot of the times you feel like you're trying a tip and a trick one after the other, but you're very uncertain of, is this like actually going to work? Is this worth my time? Which causes a few problems. The first thing is this good for my child, right? Or am I, potentially making the sleep problem worse, right? And is it worth the discomfort because I'm not even sure it's going to work? Who here has tried to implement a tip, a trick, or even a full-blown sleep training method that you were recommended online, but you were inconsistent, not because you're an inconsistent human being, but because you're like, I'm not 100% sure about this. I'm not so convinced that it's going to work. So we believe that at Be Baby, what's really important is yes, When we work one-on-one with you, we will literally make a sleep plan that tells you do exactly this at this time and that, and it will work and you can feel certain. But on top of telling you exactly what you need to do to get your baby to sleep 12 hours consistently per night, we're actually going to take the time to explain why. Because we think it's really important as moms and fathers to understand what's actually going up here. Like, if you think about it, babies are the demographic who need the most sleep, right? They need an absurd amount of sleep. And yet they're the ones preventing us from sleeping. Like, they need more sleep, we want more sleep, but they don't want it. It's very unfair. It's not well made. I think it's just like a way that God has built our humanity to test us, right? To see how tough women are. And the first thing we got to do is understand. So what we're going to do today is literally that. We are diving into the science of sleep so that you can understand what is going on inside of your kid's head that is preventing them from sleep. So we're going to start at the beginning in understanding basic sleep science. Everybody here, you've probably heard of deep sleep versus light sleep and REM sleep and all of those fancy terms, right? And wondering how does this have anything to do with my child's inability to sleep? And you might have even watched your newborn in the crib to see if their eyes are wiggling and jiggling under their eyelids while they're sleeping to see what type of sleep quality they're getting, okay? Or you have the baby who lifts their legs up and goes side to side and farts while they're sleeping. So the baby's sleeping, but you're not sleeping because he's farting next to you, right? So let's talk about sleep cycles. Everybody, baby, adult, or even elderly needs sleep cycles, okay? We don't go from like awake to deep sleep in like a second. We would just fall unconscious in the middle of the road. It would just not be great, right? We have cycles. And so every sleep cycle is somewhere between 45 minutes to about an hour and a half. There's a pretty big variance there, but it has a pattern that is very, very similar. You start off awake, and then you go into that super light sleep that if your husband accidentally smacks you, you're going to wake up, right? And then you go into stage 2 light sleep, where if you wake up by accident, you're going to be a little confused, okay? Because you're a little bit deeper in that sleep. And then you go into deep stage of sleep 1, and finally, deep stage 2. And deep stage 2 is where you're paralyzed in a sense. Your blood flow is no longer in your muscles, it's in your digestive system, it's your immune system is working overtime. Like all of these, systems or organs in your body that are like less of a priority in terms of blood flow and energy during the day become the priority. Okay. And in essence, it kind of paralyzes you. So if somebody and you've probably seen this on YouTube, if you haven't, go, watch a video of it. If somebody wakes you up in deep sleep, you won't be able to move right away. Okay. And so some people have made these jokes on YouTube where they wake somebody up right in deep sleep and the person's like unable to move. Okay. And then you rotate back up through deep stage 1 and light stage 2 and light stage 1 and so on and so forth. That whole thing is anything between 45 minutes and an hour and a half. Okay. And the first sleep cycles of the night, the first 3 or 4 sleep cycles tend to be on the longer side because they go deeper. And the last 2 to 3 sleep cycles after like 3 in the morning tend to be shorter and more superficial, which is why it is a lot easier to be accidentally woken up at, let's say, 5 in the morning than it would be at 2 a.m., right? Everybody can agree to this, that sometimes if you remember your dreams, it's usually in the early mornings, right? Because your sleep is a little less deep and a little less restful. All fine and good to know, okay? Here's the hiccup that most people don't know. Newborns don't have sleep cycles. They kind of do, but not really. They basically go from awake to light sleep, stage 1, and they drop into deep sleep. And it's not 45 minutes. It's not an hour and a half. It is completely hazardous. It can be 30 minutes and it can be all the way to 4 hours, anywhere in that range. And so with newborns, it becomes much more difficult to understand and predict their sleep because they literally could, go into deep sleep for 30 minutes only, that power nap, so to speak, right? Or they could give you a good, decent 4 hour stretch. It's very, very unpredictable. And it is at 4 months of age that all of a sudden your baby starts sleeping in the cycles that I just gave you, which are 45 minutes to about an hour and a half. Now, who here noticed, and this is not true for all babies, but for a lot of babies, who noticed a big difference and a not so positive difference in their child's sleep somewhere around 4 months? It could have been at 3 months, it could have been at 3.5 months, it could have been at 5 months, but it was around that time period. Anybody here notice a difference where not so great? Carolina did, right? Who here has heard of the infamous term, the 4 month sleep regression, right? It sends shivers down the spine of most parents who are aware of what this little regression is. Alexandra, she's like, And then Vanessa, she slept 7 hours last week and now 4 hours this week. That 4 month sleep regression is a doozy. So there's two patterns when we see bad sleepers. Either they were absolutely fantastic newborn sleepers. They went into deep sleep, no problems, and they would only wake up if they were hungry, basically. And you feed them and they fall back asleep and they give you another 4 hour stretch. And sometimes they expand that and they go to 7 hours, 8 hours, and so on and so forth. And the moms are like, yeah, man, I've got myself a good sleeper. Let's do this, right? And then all of a sudden at 4 months, because they start sleeping in cycles, it all goes down the drain. And then all of a sudden your fantastic unicorn baby of a sleeper is waking up every, let's say 2 hours, right? Or every 3 hours or whatever that might be. And hold that thought. Now the other baby is the one who was not a great sleeper from day one. He never really went into super deep sleep, and it was relatively short. Like he would get very easily disturbed. He was very overstimulated very easily, struggled with that fourth trimester transition where just a little bit overtired, no sleep, right? Or not enough tired, no sleep, and very, very finicky and difficult because there's this lack of sleep cycle. And then all of a sudden the 4 month sleep regression comes and it's like, I'm going to take this really bad situation, I'm going to make it terrible, right? And that's how we get with babies who at around this age go from really great to really bad or bad to like really, really, really bad. Okay. Now here's the thing with the 4 month sleep regression. It's not a regression. It's not a temporary thing that, okay, it's going to last about 3 to 5 weeks and I'm going to just, hold on and I'm going to toughen out. And in 3 to 5 weeks, we're going to be done. Everything is going to be great. And she's going to start sleeping better. No, it is a permanent change in the way they sleep. Because remember what I said, we as adults, we still sleep in sleep cycles that way. We still do exactly the same thing. So it's not something that has a timer. It's whatever. And so one of the big problems that can happen here is once your child goes into these sleep cycles, in between each sleep cycle, there are periods of time where you're not awake, but you're pretty close to being awake. Okay. You are in very, very superficial sleep where your eyes are closed. You're not interacting per se, but your brain is accumulating data. Are there any weird sounds around me? No, I'm not too cold. I'm not too hot. Do I need to pee really, really, really bad? Do I hear a lion roaring really close, which would signal me that maybe I need to go to sleep inside? Any sort of potential danger. And if you think about it, humans, thousands of years ago, we didn't live in houses, right? We traveled, right? And so it was important for you not to dive into a deep sleep cycle if you were sleeping in the woods and there was a bear close by, right? You kind of want to change your location before you go into the next sleep cycle. So it's called an environmental check. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and you have no idea why you woke up, but you really needed to go pee, right? Your environmental check happened and your body was like, we're gonna have an accident. She needs to get up. Like she needs to go evacuate, right? Or your husband farted while you were in your environmental check and boom, you're awake, right? And then you struggle to go back to sleep. Babies do these environmental checks when they start sleeping in cycles. The problem is they're just not very good at it. And so some babies learn to do this very effectively. And if there's no change in their environment, they don't wake up. They just slide back into the next sleep cycle. But there are some babies who don't get the concept that you're not supposed to open your eyes, right? And so they open their eyes and they wake up in their room and it's dark and they can't see you and then they freak out or they don't know how to fall back asleep on their own because they're used to being fed or rocked to sleep, which there's nothing wrong with that, but then they need you to come and actually get them back to sleep. And the big danger with that is the more this happens, closer to the second part of that night where those sleep cycles are shorter and shorter, it can happen more and more and more frequently as you get closer to the morning, right? At the beginning of the night, maybe they can give you 3 hours. And then as you cross over the 3 a.m., they start giving you only 45 minutes or 50 minutes. And the danger is their sleep debt is lesser and lesser and lesser as you get closer to the morning. So then what can happen is you can get up with a baby at 5 a.m. who's like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. Let's go ahead and start our day. I've had enough sleep, right? And then it throws off your entire day because you try and get those naps back to where they should be so that they have a decent bedtime, but it becomes nearly impossible. Okay, so that's number two. The fact that because the sleep cycles become shorter and shorter and shorter in the second part of the night, you're going to see babies who start off with okay-ish stretches and then move the way down. Okay. And that can cause the early wakers. Do we have anybody here who has an early waker? Your babies are relatively young for the early waking. We see this being a huge problem around 12 months. Around 12 months, we get a lot of early waking problem. It can happen before, but it's less likely. Carolina, exactly. She's the one with the baby close to 12 months. So that would be expected, right? And we can see a big problem there. So that's like number two. So number one is those sleep cycles and waking up in between each sleep cycle. And number two is the problem that now they might wake up early in the morning. Now, number three in sleep physiology is overtiredness. Who here has an app or has had an app on their phone, like the Wonder Weeks or what are they called? Huckleberry or whatever else that basically tells you it's time for your baby to sleep and make sure your baby's not overtired and, all of these different things. And the idea is great. But realistically, as a mom, I do not need an alarm on my phone telling me that my baby should be napping while your baby's looking at you like this. And he's not, anywhere near going to nap. Like, I don't need the reminder, right? It's not super helpful. Pampers has one now too, where if I love it, they're like, if you know when your baby's supposed to nap, all sleep problems will disappear. Every mom out there with a child who has never slept before, who has tried every variation of nap schedules and bedtimes, even in increments of 30 seconds, and has seen little to no change in their baby's sleep. And they're like, F-U-C-K space, you. You think we haven't thought about that? We've thought about it. We've tried it, right? Who here has tried every wake window? Like if your child's young, you've even tried changing the wake window by 5-minute increments. Like you have tried all of the things and it's not making a difference. It's not making a dent, right? And you're like, you think like you download this app, you're super excited. You're like, it's Pampers. They must know what they're talking about. They have a lot of money, right? Maybe they invested in some labs that, studied sleep. No, they did not. They just put wake windows inside of an app like every other app out there. Not super helpful. Here's what you need to know. There is such a thing as overtiredness. Yes. What does it actually mean? Like, what's the deal? Adenosine. We're gonna go all sciencey here. You right now, you're sitting up, you're listening to me, probably, hopefully, right? Maybe you're taking notes. Okay. And as you're doing that, you are, your body is functioning at full capacity, and you are developing or, accumulating adenosine in your blood. Adenosine is a byproduct of being awake. Literally, it is a byproduct of you functioning. If we ask the internet to give us a brief description of adenosine, it is literally an organic compound that occurs widely in nature in the forms of diverse derivatives. It consists of adrenaline attached to ribose and then a whole bunch of other things, okay? And it is known as AMP, ADP, and ATP, okay? The more awake you are, the more adenosine in your blood flow. Adenosine is the cause of feeling tired. If you're sitting in front of the couch and you're going, that's adenosine. If it's 2 in the afternoon and you're like, oh my God, I need a cup of coffee. I need a cup of coffee. That's adenosine. The reason we like coffee is because caffeine can bind to the same receptors as adenosine and temporarily block its ability to make us tired. Okay? When you sleep, your body clears out adenosine, and that's why you feel better. That's why a 30-minute nap, if you've not had enough sleep, is not a solution, okay? But it can help you feel better for a bit because it clears out a little bit of that adenosine, okay? So here's the issue with adenosine. Remember how I said adrenaline? Okay. Who here has ever had, well, your babies are really young, but maybe toddlers, or you've seen your nephew or another child do this. They stay up past their bedtime and they adenosine. And they stay up past their bedtime and they go from being a little tired to all of a sudden, they are running around the house, they are laughing, they are screaming, and they are incredibly excited, okay? They seem to all of a sudden have all the energy in the world. And if you have guests over, they're like, you don't need to put him to bed. See, he's having so much fun. And then something happens. They knock their foot on the side of the wall, or somebody breathes a little bit too close to them, or nothing happens really, and they burst out into a tantrum, and it's an uncontrollable tantrum. Who here has pulled an all-nighter when you were younger, and you went through a phase where you got really, really, really tired, and then all of a sudden you weren't tired anymore, and you had like this new wave of energy? Maybe not now because we're a little, I mean, I'm old. That doesn't happen as much with me anymore. But when I was younger, nobody's pulled an all-nighter here? Really? Sam? Okay. Hey, hey, hey. I have had that. Allie, I have a boy that's 2.5 and 4 years old. So you've seen that happen. Why does that happen? There is a certain extent of getting tired where you get overtired and you got too much adenosine going on, and your body kicks into adrenaline overdrive. And you suddenly have this intense burst of energy and you get a little wacky, okay? Toddlers and babies have this same problem. The issue is the more overtired they get, then the less likely they are to go to sleep, because they're ramped up at this point. They're excited like Jill was last night because of the full moon, okay? So now it's really, really time for them to go to sleep, but they're like, right? It's like you fed them nothing but sugar all day all of a sudden, right? And so the issue with babies is it's so easy for them to slip over the line into overtiredness. It takes, this much. The line is very, very fine versus we have a buffer, right? We have a buffer. And we have the maturity and the level of understanding that when you get to you should probably go to bed, and then you're making, a conscious decision of ignoring it or listening to it, right? It's our fault. It's our choice. But with babies and toddlers, they slip over that line very easily. And once they're overtired, they fight going to sleep. The more overtired they are when they go to sleep, the less deep their sleep ends up being. Those cycles become more superficial, which means they wake up more often. And because they woke up more often, they're a lot more likely to wake up very overtired, which means they're also more likely to fight naps. And then because they fought naps, they're like super overtired. And at 5 p.m. or 4 p.m., they look like they need to go down for the night, but you can't possibly let them go down for the night because it's 4 p.m. and then he's going to be up at 2 in the morning. So you keep him up, and then all of a sudden he has a new ramp of energy and he can't go to bed anymore. And then you end up putting him in bed at 1 in the morning and you get stuck. You get stuck in this cycle. Okay. So sleep physiology, let's just roll back, okay, in our sleep science. We started with understanding newborn sleep, check. And then we looked at our sleep cycles, right? Check. We understood what happens at 4 months, check. We understood that it can lead to morning wake-ups to be closer and closer, great, check. And now we understand overtiredness, check. Told you, we're going to smack a whole lot of information in a very short period of time. Now, here's the issue. Let's say you have a baby who is 5 months old, and your baby's waking up every 2.5 to 3 hours, right? Because of all this. And you're thinking to yourself, well, it's not a big deal. I'm a tough cookie. I can do it. I can totally, deal with this until he is ready or she is ready to start stretching again, those sleep cycles, right? You're thinking with time, with age, or when they start solids, they're going to start giving you better stretches of sleep. Here's the problem. Two things. First of all, there's always the risk that overtiredness is actually going to make those 3-hour stretches become 2-hour stretches, become 1-hour stretches. And the worst that can happen is 30 minutes, right? When babies wake up every 30 minutes. The great news is it doesn't get worse than that. Okay. But there is another danger. Let's say that does not happen. Your baby wakes up every 2 hours and you never get stuck in that overtiredness because you never leave the house anymore. Like you are like on the ball with the naps and you never miss one, and you will dance and sing and do theatrics to get that kid to take a nap. So they don't get into overtiredness cycle. And you're getting those wake ups every 2 hours, but they don't get any closer. You're like, I've got this. I've got this. Eventually, this is just going to stretch. No, there's one last thing. Patterned wakes. The brain is like a computer. Unfortunately, not as easy to reprogram as a computer, but it has similarities in the sense where it loves patterns. I mean, think about it. When you're walking, do you think about how you're going to position your big toe to keep your balance, or at what angle your knee needs to bend in order to make sure that your gait, is long enough? No, all of that is automatic. It is patterns that your brain has learned over time to make walking efficient and safe so that you don't fall over, right? When you get to your car, you don't need to think about, ooh, I need to open this door. How does this work? Ooh, button here. Like this is all pre-programmed for you. It's simple, repetitive things that you do a lot. And as a result, it's a pattern. Many of us have morning routines where you do the same thing every morning. Who here is kind of like me and only partially awake, really, by the time you get out of bed in the morning and you do exactly the same thing? I get out of bed, I go in the living room, I sit on the couch, my husband gives me a cup of coffee, and I sit there and I drink my coffee. I have a lovely life, right? And so that is my routine every single morning, right? I do this. I don't need to think about it. It is a pattern. Your brain just loves patterns. And in most cases, it can serve you really, really well. And then there are other patterns that don't serve you really, really well, right? And the problem with those wake ups that are every 2 hours that you're doing everything right, but you're hoping they're going to stretch out over time is that the brain can decide that this is a pattern. And so we can see babies who started waking up every 2 hours, let's say at 4 months, still waking up every 2 hours at 3 years old because the pattern is set. The brain is like, you know what? Every 2 hours, he wakes up and he eats milk or he drinks milk, should I say. That's really important. Food is like way up there in the hierarchy of needs. Like, this is pretty crucial. Let's make sure that we just pre-program it. Let's make sure he never, ever, ever skips a feed, right? And the brain's like, aren't we amazing? We have programmed something else. We don't even need to think about it. We have made his life easier. And you're on the other side, mom, trying to change the bedtime by, 5 minutes, hoping that this is finally, going to be the one. Or if you get really desperate, you put an onion in a sock that you've put on top of the crib. We've seen that in sleep groups. Or you're buying your 12th sleep sack that's supposed to magically get your baby to bed. Or you buy one of those fancy cribs that cost like $1,200 and it's supposed to shake your baby to sleep. Like you're out there doing all the things and the brain's like, let's make this simpler. Let's program this pattern. And then no matter what you do, it's not working because now it's a pattern. So what do we do about all this, right? Do you feel like you have a better understanding now of like, okay, now I kind of understand what's going on, right? And maybe you have a little bit less like guilt or obsession over your bedtime routine because maybe you've been thinking, well, I've been doing something wrong and that's why my baby doesn't sleep. You haven't. It's not your fault. It just is, right? Some babies really naturally will, start sleeping longer and deeper with age, and there's really nothing to be done. And other babies just don't transition into that very well, and they need to learn how to sleep. They need to learn the skill of sleep, of falling asleep, of staying asleep, and create a pattern that is actually optimal in terms of sleep. So what do we do about all this? Because here's the issue. I could have two of you right now that has a 5-month-old baby who's waking up at night, right? However, the extent of the problem and the presence of patterns or the presence of overtired, like that's going to vary from one baby to another. Maybe Lavender's been co-sleeping with her baby, but Emily hasn't. And so how we go ahead to fix the sleep problem is going to have to be different because these are two different babies with two unique sleep problems. And this is also why if you've invested in very, generalized sleep courses before where, every baby is put through this very same funnel of, magical sleep training, it hasn't worked for you, right? Because it is not made for your baby. It's made for some normative child, right? And your baby might not be that baby. I have 5 children. Not a single one of them was the same. I had 2 babies that I would qualify as honestly really good sleepers. I had to do a little bit of work, very little, and they started sleeping through the night. Okay. I had one who was an awful sleeper. He was terrible. I had to like sit down, do an evaluation, build a whole sleep plan to get him to sleep through the night. Otherwise, he was going to wake up every 45 minutes. He did all the things we talked about this morning. He did all of them. Okay? He needed a sleep plan by an expert with a very careful implementation. And he became an amazing sleeper. He slept 12 hours per night, never woke up once, took his naps. But before that, I was a walking zombie. Okay? And then I had 2 sleepers that were like, I would say somewhere in the continuum, but closer to good than bad. Okay? So they needed a little bit of a structure, of a plan. They had a few little sleep problems that I had to adjust. Every baby is different. And it's not because you did something wrong. It's not because you need to watch more YouTube videos. It's not because you need to read yet another book or yet another blog. It might just be because, well, your baby has a few different sleep problems and you need a little bit of help decorticating and understanding what is happening inside of his or her brain so that we can create a plan that is unique for your baby, and then it's customized. Then you're certain that it's going to work. And then you can be consistent because it actually is leading you where you want to go. And here's the kicker. Once you get a baby that is sleep educated and he's sleeping, let's say 12 hours per night consistently without waking up, he goes to bed at 7, okay? You put him in bed awake. He just falls asleep. It's all great. You have your evening back. You get to be a human again. You get to shower. You get to have an adult conversation, read a book, do a puzzle, do nothing and Netflix and chill, whatever, right? And then you go to bed and you sleep a good solid 8 hours, okay? Both of you are going to wake up much, much better rested. And what happens is that inner adrenaline, that inner stress or pressure that we accumulate in terms of sleep deprivation goes away. This makes you, first of all, your baby less likely to cry or less likely to have tantrums, less likely to get ill also because their immune system functions better, but it diminishes your stress a lot. Okay, that's why we see a lot of postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety when there's sleep deprivation. Because when you're in sleep deprivation for too long, your body is engineered to be able to survive a little bit of sleep depression, a little bit of sleep deprivation, right? A little bit. And so when you go into sleep deprivation, your body goes into overdrive and it floods you with adrenaline to keep you functioning, right? Keep that blood pumping, keep you going until you can rest again. The thing is, that system is meant to function for a very short period of time, not days and weeks and months and years. And so at a certain point, it causes a super high level of pressure and inner anxiety where you feel like you never really rest, right? And it can make you angry. It can make you, very, very emotional. And you just feel anybody here ever just feel like you're sitting in a soup of pressure and anxiety, right? And you're just uncomfortable and you can't necessarily pinpoint the why you feel that way. Well, sleep deprivation will do that, okay? It just causes that inner pressure. So once you fix the sleep problem, there's a lot of things that get better. Reflux and colics get better, constipation, diarrhea get better. All of these things really, really get better. So somebody on my team will drop, before you leave, Vanessa, a link to our schedule. And if you would like to discuss your sleep problems with us, it's complimentary. There's no cost to it, okay? You can schedule a call with us to see if sleep consulting, like getting a tailored plan made for you, is the right solution for you. We use sleep education. So we don't use cry it out. We don't use, those one size fits all approaches. We will completely evaluate the situation, make sure we identify the direct cause of the sleep problem for your baby, your history, your type of parenting, and all these things. And we're going to create a custom plan that actually works for your child. And not only are we going to get your baby to sleep through the night, but we're going to stick around for a few months to make sure that it actually stays that way through all the sleep regressions and the wonder weeks and this, and that, right? We want to make sure that it lasts a really, really long time, okay? So for those who are listening and you're thinking, feel like I have a better understanding now of what's been going on, and I don't think, a bedtime change or ritual change is going to cut it anymore. I just want to be told exactly what to do. Like, just tell me exactly what to do when she wakes up so that it stops and she can sleep better and I can sleep better and we can all be happy. that's exactly what we're going to do. We're not going to leave anything to guessing game. We're literally going to look at the situation, do all the math behind it, and say, all right, do exactly this at bedtime. Do exactly this at nap time. Let's do exactly this if she responds this way or that way or this way, right? And then we'll make the plan, but we don't just like dine and dash. We're going to give you the plan. We're going to sit down with you. We're going to go over it. We're going to explain everything. And then we're actually going to implement it with you. We're going to be with you and make sure that it actually works. And then we're going to stick around for months to make sure that it stays that way, right? We're very dedicated to making sure that mothers around the world are not sleep deprived. It just makes it a better place, you know? Who here has a receptionist at the medical clinic that they go to who's just so rude, right? Just so mean. Every time I encounter someone who's like a mom or a woman who's like super in customer service and just rude, I always think in my head, maybe she's sleep deprived. Maybe she doesn't have a sleep consultant. It's not her fault, right? I always feel bad because I'm thinking if you're that upset, you're not sleeping. And if you're not sleeping, nobody's going to be, happy if you're not sleeping. It's going to take its toll, right? It's going to eat you up inside. So go ahead and register and, get a call. Now, finally, before you go, we are going to be hosting a full-on sleep seminar, okay? We're talking 5 days where we're going to be walking you through the science of sleep education. We're going to show you how we how we figure out the very unique sleep disruptors for every single baby and toddler and preschooler, and how we actually go and build a plan for those babies and toddlers based on what we found. And this time, somebody's going to drop a link on my on the Zoom, but this time it's going to be an amazing seminar because it is both a self-care seminar retreat and a sleep seminar, which means every day we're going to be giving you all the information in terms of sleep, okay? Click on the link and open it. We're going to do it together because I want you to experience this, okay? It's going to be a self-care and sleep retreat. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to sign into this. You're going to click and register to it. And then you're going to be able to log in, okay? And you are going to fall inside of the B-Baby world. We have created a virtual world for you to be able to experience a full-on wellness retreat as well as a sleep seminar over a 5-day period, okay? So and there's a welcome video for all of that. You guys can watch it afterwards, okay? But I'm going to share my screen real quick for you to be able to see it, okay? But this is the B-Baby world. Now it's normally you're going to see the people walking and what have you. This is just a still image that I'm showing you, but you're going to be able to click on, watch the welcome video and you're going to see me, walk in, but my computer's very odd, so it's not going to work, okay? But this is the B-Baby world, okay? And this is where our whole seminar is going to take place. So you're going to be able, when it's time to listen to the sessions, to go into the pavilion, right? And you're going to click there and you're going to be able to start watching the show with us, okay? And in the morning, hey, welcome to the Royal Slumber Retreat provided to you by B-Baby. All right, okay, I'm going to shut her up so that you can listen to her a little bit later, okay? But she's going to explain everything to you. And you're going to be able to go in the Zen Gateway and do morning yoga with us. We're actually going to appear here and do morning yoga with you. And you can go to the lounge here at any time and join our Facebook group. Send us a message. Book a call with us. If you haven't already, go and book a call, okay? And we're also going to have the beach. Now, there's nobody here right now, but there's going to be little heads that are going to pop up and you're going to be able to interact and have a nice little conversation with people. And finally, the Serenity Gardens, where we're going to be doing meditation together. So basically, we're going to be giving you all of the secrets to sleep education. We're really going to be giving you all of that sciencey stuff that I'm super into. But while we have you and we're teaching you about these things, we're also going to take the time to teach you some really valuable self-care lessons because moms, even once we get you the sleep that you need, here's the thing, being a mom is hard. Being a parent is challenging. We live in a very challenging world, and we live in a world where we are constantly within a soup of pressure, anxiety, and an undercurrent of anger, right? There's just a lot of very angry people out there. And so it is super important that you are equipped with skills of self-care that allow you to not be affected by all of these things, that allow you to be able to deal with the challenges of motherhood and the challenges of life in general and the ups and downs of your careers and the ups and downs of your marriage, etc. So we're going to be taking the time to teach you how to get your baby to sleep, but also teach you the valuable skills that I use as a mom of 5 kids, guys, okay? As an immigrant, as a business owner, to not lose my marbles along the way. And dare I say, if it works for me, it's gonna work for you.